I still remember the day I signed the papers for the loft. It was a bright spring morning in Denver, and I felt like I was finally standing on solid ground. I had just turned 30, gotten a major promotion at the architectural firm, and I was ready for a place that felt like mine. The 1930s Art Deco loft in Lodo checked every box. High ceilings, original steel windows, and a rooftop patio that overlooked the city skyline. My name is Ethan Walker. I'm 30 years old, born and raised in Colorado. If I have one real passion besides my career, it's collecting and restoring vintage mechanical watches. It's not about showing off. It never was. It's about the craftsmanship, the stories these old timepieces carry. I caught the bug when I studied abroad in Switzerland during college, where I spent more time wandering into small watchmaker shops than sightseeing. Over the years, I built a collection of over 200 pieces, some rare and worth thousands. I catalog them, repair them, and store them in a climate-controlled vault I had installed in the loft. To me, the collection isn't just a hobby. It's history. It's focus. It's something I built with my own two hands, just like my career. When my parents, Harold and Marjorie, came to visit for the first time, I expected them to be proud. I spent the entire day before their arrival polishing the display cases, preparing a home-cooked dinner, and even choosing a few of my favorite watches to show them. I thought they'd finally see that I'd made something of myself. The visit started off fine. Mom walked in, looking around the open-concept living space. "It's different," she said, which is her version of a compliment. Dad, always blunt, tapped on one of my framed architectural sketches and said, "So, this is where all your money's been going." "Not all of it," I said, trying to laugh it off. "Come here, I want to show you something special." I led them into the vault, the lights dimming automatically as the door opened. Rows of restored watches glimmered under LED spotlights. "This is my collection," I said with a smile. "I've been working on some of these pieces for years." They stared like I had just introduced them to a room full of live snakes. "Ethan," Mom started carefully, "are you okay? I mean, this is a little much, isn't it?" "A little much," I repeated, not sure I'd heard her right. "It's 200 watches," Dad said flatly. "Do you even wear them? Or do you just sit in here, staring at them all day?" "This is starting to sound like an obsession, son." The warmth I'd been feeling just moments ago drained out of me. "It's a hobby, a collection. People collect art, don't they?" "This isn't art," Mom said, her voice soft but sharp around the edges. "It's compulsive. Do you really think this is normal? What happens if you can't pay the mortgage because you're too busy buying old watches?" I blinked. "I'm fine financially. I just got a promotion. I bought this loft with my bonus." "That's not the point," Dad interrupted. "You should think about simplifying. Maybe sell some of these things. Ryan could use some help. He's got a family to support, unlike you." Ryan, my older brother, owns a gym that's been barely scraping by. He's married with 2 kids, but that doesn't mean I should just hand him my life. "Wait," I said, my voice stiffening. "Are you seriously suggesting I what? Give up my home for Ryan?" Dad crossed his arms. "He needs space. A yard for the kids. You don't. This place is wasted on you, Ethan." I stared at them, stunned. This was supposed to be my moment, my chance to show them I wasn't the screw-up they used to think I was. But instead of pride, all I saw in their faces was judgment. "Maybe you need help," Mom added quietly. "This watch thing, it's not healthy. You can't just live like this forever." Something in my chest tightened. I wanted to shout, to throw them out of my home, but instead I just stood there, silent. Because what do you say when your own parents look at the thing you love most, and the life you've built, and call it a sickness? The first sign that things were spiraling came the next morning. I was sipping coffee and reviewing blueprints when my phone buzzed with a text from Ryan. "Ryan, heard you might be moving soon. The kids would love the rooftop patio." I stared at the screen, my jaw tightening. No greeting, no question, just an assumption that I was about to hand over my loft like it was a spare couch. I typed out a calm response. "Me, I'm not moving. I never said that." His reply came in seconds. "Ryan, Mom said you're thinking about downsizing. Don't be selfish, Ethan. You don't even need that place." I put the phone down and tried to focus on work, but the irritation sat like a stone in my chest. By noon, the texts started rolling in from my parents, links to articles about hoarding, obsessive-compulsive behaviors, and the danger of material attachments. "Mom, sweetheart, we're worried. Read this. It's about people who collect too much. Dad, you need to simplify your life before it consumes you." They made it sound like I was living in a junkyard instead of a meticulously organized loft. My collection wasn't some random heap. It was cataloged, insured, and appraised. But to them, it was proof I'd lost perspective. I didn't respond. I just started documenting everything, every message, every call, because a part of me already sensed this wasn't just concern. It felt like they were laying groundwork, whispering behind my back, trying to make me look unstable. 2 days later, the extended family joined in. My cousin Laura sent me a concerned message on Facebook. "Laura, your mom said you're isolating yourself with your watches. Is everything okay?" My aunt chimed in with, "You should talk to someone, Ethan. We love you and don't want you to ruin your life." I sat on my couch reading these messages, stunned. My own parents had turned my family against me, painting me as some obsessive shut-in. Then Samantha, Ryan's wife, sent the message that made my stomach turn. "Samantha, just curious, Which furniture are we keeping when you move out? I think the leather sofa would look perfect in the kids' playroom. I nearly dropped my phone. They weren't just talking about my loft like it was already theirs. They were divvying it up. I called Ryan immediately. Listen to me, I said, my voice low and tight. I'm not moving. You're not getting my loft. And if you or anyone else comes near my collection, we're going to have a serious problem. He just laughed. Man, relax. We're family. We'll figure it out. But I wasn't relaxed. I was furious, and I had a sinking feeling they were just getting started. The following week, I left for a 2-day architecture conference in Chicago. It was supposed to be a quick trip, just enough time to meet clients, attend a couple of seminars, and network with some industry leaders. Before leaving, I double-checked my security system, the biometric locks on my watch vault, and the cameras I had installed throughout the loft. But something gnawed at me during the flight home, a vague unease I couldn't explain. I decided to cut the trip short and take an earlier flight back to Denver. When I opened my front door, I knew something was wrong. The faint hum of the climate control system was off. The faint smell of leather and wood polish was replaced with a sharp, chemical scent, like furniture cleaner. Then I heard voices. Careful with that one, Ryan said from inside the vault. That's got to be worth a couple thousand. We'll get good money for it. I froze in the doorway, my pulse hammering. My brother, Samantha, and 2 men I didn't recognize, appraisers, judging by their clipboards, were inside my home. My watches were laid out on my dining table like they were garage sale trinkets. What the hell are you doing? My voice cracked through the loft like a whip. Samantha jumped, nearly dropping a vintage Omega. Ryan spun around, scowling. Ethan, what are you doing here? I thought you were out of town. I was. Until now. What is this? Ryan had the audacity to look annoyed. We're helping you, man. You don't need all this stuff. Mom said you need an intervention. We're selling some of these watches to get you started on treatment. I stepped closer, heat rushing through my face. Treatment? You broke into my home and are pawning off my collection? Are you out of your mind? Samantha shot me a fake sympathetic look. We're doing this for your own good. You're sick, Ethan. These watches, they're like an addiction. An addiction? I repeated, nearly laughing. Do you have any idea how much time and work I've put into restoring these pieces? This isn't junk. That watch you're holding is worth $3,000. Ryan waved me off. We found some appraisers who'll give us a decent price. Better than you throwing money away on this crap. That word, crap, made something inside me snap. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. What are you doing? Ryan barked. Calling the police, I said. You're trespassing. And if even one of these watches is scratched, you'll pay for every single dime. Ryan's face flushed red. Mom gave me a key. That means I have permission. I glared at him. My home, my property. Mom doesn't get to hand out keys like it's Halloween candy. The police arrived within 15 minutes. The appraisers scattered, muttering apologies. Ryan tried to argue that it was a family matter, but the officers weren't having it. They made him and Samantha return every watch they had touched. After they left, I spent hours inspecting my collection. Several watches were scratched, including my prized 1950s Omega. It's crystal chipped, a $3,000 wound. That night, I changed the locks, upgraded the security system, and made a silent vow. If my family wanted a war over my life, I was ready to fight back. Changing the locks didn't stop them. If anything, it seemed to provoke them. The day after the break-in, my phone lit up with call after call from my mother. I ignored the first 10, then finally answered, hoping to put an end to the madness. Ethan, what's wrong with you? Mom's voice was sharp, almost trembling with anger. Your brother was trying to help. You need to get rid of this obsession before it destroys you. I gritted my teeth. He broke into my home, Mom. He brought strangers into my loft and tried to steal from me. That's not stealing, she shot back. That's family. He's worried about you. We all are. You mean you all want my property? I said coldly. Her silence told me everything I needed to know. By the next day, the situation escalated in a way I hadn't thought possible. A cousin texted me a screenshot of a Facebook post from my mother. Please keep my son Ethan in your prayers. He's going through a dark time, consumed by a dangerous obsession with material possessions. We're trying to get him the help he needs. Below the post were dozens of comments from relatives and family friends I hadn't spoken to in years. We're here for you, Marjorie. Stay strong. Prayers for Ethan's healing. I felt sick. She had turned my love for watches into a public spectacle. Within hours, someone started a Facebook group called Prayers for Ethan, with a photo of me from a family barbecue years ago, smiling awkwardly with a plate of burgers. The group description read, "Let's come together to help Ethan Walker find peace and freedom from his obsession." At work, I began noticing odd glances from colleagues. One of them, a guy from accounting, cornered me in the break room. "Hey, man," he said awkwardly. "Are you okay? Someone told me you're going through something." My stomach dropped. They were poisoning my reputation, and it was spreading beyond family. That night, I started recording everything. Screenshots, voicemails, social media posts. I wasn't going to let their lies bury me. If they wanted a public war, I was done playing the quiet son who tolerated their meddling. A week after the Facebook debacle, my parents called, saying they wanted to have a family dinner at Ryan's house. Their tone was overly sweet, rehearsed, like they were trying too hard. My gut told me it was a setup, but I went anyway, part curiosity, part anger. I wanted to see just how far they were willing to take this charade. When I walked through Ryan's front door, my suspicion was confirmed. 25 pairs of eyes turned to me. Some were familiar, cousins, aunts, uncles. Others were strangers. A tall woman with a clipboard and a fake soothing smile stood near the living room fireplace. "Welcome, Ethan," she said, as if I were a patient walking into a therapy session. "I'm Dr. Laura Benton. I've been asked to help facilitate today's meeting." "What the hell is this?" I asked, scanning the room. Mom stepped forward, her hands clasped like she was about to start a prayer circle. "Sweetheart, this is for your own good. We all love you and want to help you break free from all this." She gestured vaguely, as if my collection was a disease. I laughed. It wasn't a cheerful laugh. It was sharp, cutting. "You ambushed me. This is an intervention?" Ryan, standing smugly in the corner, said, "We're just trying to help you see reality, man. You're drowning in this watch addiction. You don't even see it anymore." The so-called doctor nodded like she was in a daytime TV special. "Ethan, what you're experiencing is known as collector's delusion. It's when someone's self-worth becomes tied to objects rather than people." I looked around the room, my jaw tight. "You invited a stranger to diagnose me? Without ever talking to me first?" Uncle Gary cleared his throat, reading from a note card. "Ethan, we're worried about your isolation. You used to be fun at family gatherings, but now all you talk about is watches." Cousin Laura jumped in. "We just want the old you back." Then Ryan stepped forward with a folder. "This is for your own good. If you sign these papers, we can get you help and make sure your finances don't spiral out of control. We'll manage the loft, the bank accounts, just until you're better." He handed me the papers, but I didn't take them. I saw what they were: property transfer documents, financial control agreements, legal traps dressed up as care. "You have got to be kidding me," I said. Ryan's wife, Samantha, smirked. "Ethan, just sign it. It's what everyone wants." Instead, I pulled out my phone, hit record, and held it up. "You all hear that? This isn't about my mental health. It's about control, about greed, about stealing from me." The room went silent, except for the faint hum of the ceiling fan. "You think I'm crazy? Fine," I said, my voice steady. "But I'm not stupid. You won't get my home. You won't get my collection. And you sure as hell won't get my signature on these fraudulent documents." Mom's face crumpled, tears welling. "Ethan, please, don't do this to yourself." "No," I said, stepping toward the door. "You did this. All of you. And now I have proof." Ryan lunged as if to stop me, but I was already out the door, the recording safely backed up on my phone. As I walked to my car, I heard shouting behind me, Ryan yelling, Mom crying, voices blaming me for tearing the family apart. But for the first time in weeks, I felt a strange calm. They'd shown their true colors, and I had every intention of exposing them. 3 weeks passed after the intervention, but the silence didn't last. My phone stopped buzzing, the Facebook gossip slowed down, and I let myself believe, naively, that they'd given up. I buried myself in work, finalizing designs for a new civic building project, and started spending more time with friends who actually respected me. Then, one Friday afternoon, I got a text from my neighbor, Kevin, who lived across the hall. "Kevin, hey, did you sell your loft? Some realtor's been showing it to people all day." My stomach dropped. "What?" I texted back, already grabbing my keys. When I stepped outside, I saw it. A big white and red for sale sign planted right in front of my building. A silver SUV with a real estate company's logo was parked nearby. Through the open door of my loft, I saw strangers walking around, admiring the brick walls and the vaulted ceilings, my home, while a realtor smiled and gestured toward my watch vault as if it was part of the deal. "Excuse me, what the hell is going on?" I said, storming in. The realtor turned, caught off guard. "Oh, you must be Ryan. We were told you're the legal guardian of the property. Congratulations on the listing." My blood went cold. "Ryan? Guardian? I'm Ethan Walker. This is my home. Get out." She blinked, confused. I have signed documents stating that you've been deemed mentally unfit to manage your estate. These were filed by your family." It felt like the floor fell out beneath me. My parents, Ryan, Samantha, they had actually forged papers to claim I was mentally incapacitated. Everyone out. Now, my voice was sharp enough to cut steel. The visitors hurried past me, muttering apologies. I called 911 on the spot. The realtor stammered something about being misled and backed out the door as I gave the dispatcher my address. While waiting for the police, I searched through the papers left on my kitchen island. Copies of a guardianship petition, a bogus psychological report from some specialist I'd never even met, and financial statements claiming I was institutionalized. When the officers arrived, I explained everything. One of them scanned the forged documents and shook his head. "This is serious. Whoever did this is in deep trouble. You'll need to file a formal report and get a lawyer involved immediately." I already had a folder full of evidence from the break-in and intervention. Now, I had another layer of proof that my family wasn't just meddling, they were committing fraud. That night, I barely slept. I kept picturing Ryan, Samantha, and my parents sitting around a table, plotting how to steal everything I'd worked for. It wasn't about helping me. It was never about my well-being. It was about greed. By morning, I had retained a lawyer. We drafted cease and desist letters to every party involved. But even as we sent them out, I knew this was bigger than letters. This was criminal, and I was ready to take them to court. The case moved faster than I expected. The police took my report seriously, especially with the stack of evidence I had already compiled: text messages, the video recording of the intervention, and the forged guardianship papers from the realtor's files. My lawyer, Allison Pierce, wasted no time filing charges for fraud, attempted theft, and conspiracy. The day we walked into the courtroom, I felt a mix of anger and sadness. My own family sat on the defense bench, Ryan in a cheap suit that looked borrowed, Samantha next to him with her arms crossed, and my parents, Harold and Marjorie, looking pale and nervous. They didn't make eye contact. The prosecutor laid it out plainly. Ryan Walker and Samantha Walker attempted to seize control of Ethan Walker's property and assets through fraudulent means. They fabricated psychological reports, falsified financial documents, and conspired with others to stage an unauthorized property sale. Ryan's lawyer tried to spin it as a misunderstanding, claiming they were only trying to help Ethan manage his mental health struggles. But the judge didn't buy it. The video from the fake intervention was played in court. Ryan's voice clearly heard saying, "Just sign it, Ethan. It's what everyone wants." I'll never forget the look on Ryan's face when the judge asked, "Mr. Walker, do you deny orchestrating this scheme?" His jaw tightened, but the evidence was overwhelming. Emails recovered from Ryan's laptop were the final nail in the coffin. They included exchanges between him, Samantha, and my parents, discussing the timeline for liquidating my watch collection and using the money to help Ryan's business and the kids. There were even practice sheets with forged versions of my signature. I testified about the break-in, the harassment, and the damage they caused to my professional reputation with their online smear campaign. When I finished, I glanced at my parents. My mother had tears in her eyes, but they weren't tears of apology. They were tears of shame at being caught. The verdict came after only 2 days of testimony. Ryan was convicted of fraud and attempted theft. He was sentenced to community service, restitution for the damaged watches, and 2 years of probation. Samantha got a lesser sentence, but was fined and ordered to stay away from me. My parents received probation and a hefty fine for their involvement, though the judge noted their willingness to enable and support criminal behavior. Dr. Laura Benton, the so-called behavioral counselor from the intervention, was stripped of her license for participating in the scheme. After the trial, some relatives reached out to apologize, saying they'd been misled. Others, especially those who had joined the Facebook Prayers for Ethan group, whispered that I was vindictive for pressing charges. Vindictive? No, I was done being their victim. The damage to our family was permanent, but for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. After the trial, my loft felt different, not tainted, but quiet, like it was finally mine again. I spent a weekend redecorating, rearranging furniture, and upgrading the security system with new cameras and reinforced locks. Every watch was inspected, polished, and returned to its rightful place in the climate-controlled vault. I even replaced the broken display case with a custom-made one that felt like a small victory. For weeks, I avoided calls from anyone with the last name Walker. I wasn't interested in reconciliation or half-hearted apologies. I had learned that family didn't mean unconditional support. Sometimes it meant the opposite: entitlement, manipulation, and betrayal dressed up as concern. Professionally, things began to take off. A month after the trial, my firm landed a contract with the city to restore a landmark Art Deco building. My boss called me into his office, grinning. "This one's all yours, Ethan. You've earned it." The project was exactly the kind of work I loved, preserving history while bringing it into the modern world. I threw myself into the design, working late nights that didn't feel exhausting because I was doing something that mattered. When the contract was finalized, my colleagues threw a small celebration for me at a rooftop bar. One of my clients, a watch enthusiast who had become a friend, brought a rare bottle of champagne with a watch motif on the label. As we toasted, I thought about how different this moment felt compared to the chaos of the past months. These were people who respected me for who I was, not for what I could give them or what they could take. I started a new tradition in my loft. Every month, I'd choose one watch from my collection to display prominently in the living room, with a small card explaining its history and the work I put into restoring it. Friends would come over, and we'd talk about the stories behind these timepieces, how they'd survived decades, wars, and owners who didn't understand their value. It felt symbolic. I had survived, too. For the first time, I wasn't just protecting my collection. I was protecting my peace. And I realized that walking away from my family wasn't a loss. It was freedom. For months later, I hosted an event I dreamed of for years, a private exhibition of my watch collection. It wasn't about showing off. It was about sharing the craftsmanship and history I loved with people who appreciated it, people who saw the watches not as obsessions, but as pieces of art. I rented a small gallery space downtown, its walls lined with clean white shelves and soft lighting that made every watch glimmer like it had its own story to tell. I displayed my most prized pieces, like the restored 1950s Omega that had been damaged in Ryan's break-in, now perfectly repaired. All proceeds from the ticket sales and merchandise went to a scholarship fund I started for young designers and architects. I called it the second-hand scholarship, a nod to both my passion for watches and my belief that second chances can lead to something extraordinary. Friends, colleagues, and clients filled the gallery that night. I gave a short speech, my heart pounding as I looked at the crowd. Time is a strange thing, I said. We can't own it, but we can honor it. Every watch here has a story of perseverance, of artistry, of survival. I think that's true for all of us. We're all trying to build something worth passing on. When the room quieted, I poured a glass of champagne from the rare bottle my client had gifted me months before. I raised it, feeling a warmth in my chest that had nothing to do with the drink. To survival, to self-respect, and to the family we choose, I said. Because blood may be thicker than water, but trust is thicker than blood. The room erupted in applause. As I looked around at the faces smiling back at me, friends who had become like family, I felt lighter than I had in years. The bitterness was gone. In its place was something stronger, a quiet pride in the life I'd built on my own terms. I took a slow sip, letting the moment sink in. This was my final toast, to freedom, to peace, and to never letting anyone diminish the value of what I loved again.